All right, everybody. Hello, welcome. I see you streaming in. This is so great. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. Happy Wednesday. My name's Alyssa. You probably know that. You know what you're showing up for. So welcome. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We are already rolling. We are recording. Yep, just double checking that we're recording. So I'm gonna welcome us all officially in just a minute, but for now, will you look in the chat box and will you tell me where in the world you are and what's your work? What kind of work do you do in the world? So go ahead and just make sure that you're typing so that it says to panelists and all participants so we can all see it. Let me know. Let's see, where did my chat box go? Oh, perfect. Hi from London. Is anyone else hearing an echo? I saw something about an echo. We're okay? Cool. Okay, looks like we're okay. Oh my gosh, look at all of you guys. This is amazing. I'm not gonna be able to get through the chat box fast enough. Okay, I see people from North America. I see people from India, from the UK, Los Angeles, Vancouver, New Jersey. Amazing. Ohio. Welcome. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Look at all of us. This is amazing. Security engineer, teacher, healthcare, image consultant, pianist. Amazing, you guys. Welcome. I'm going to give it another moment because there's still lots of people streaming in here. We've got, so we have nearly 2,000 people signed up for this webinar, which is wild. So exciting. And we've got 145 of you in the room and growing right now. This is amazing. Amazing. Okay, well, that's my face that you're staring at, but I'm gonna let you actually see my face. How about that? Okay, here we go. Hi. So hold on one second. So Christian's here as well as tech support if anyone needs anything. But are you guys looking at me now? Yeah, does that look like Alyssa? Perfect, okay. Amazing, okay, great. Okay, so let's see, where do I want to position my microphone? It's kind of odd on this dress. Let's see. Let's put it here-ish. All right. Here we go, everybody. Hello. Hi, Alexandra. Good to see you. Okay, so it looks like we have people from all over. Thank you for taking time in the middle of your day or the end of your day or wherever you are to be here right now. This is so wonderful. And yeah, okay, so we are here to talk about why we freak out on camera and how we can solve it. And I'm actually gonna do something fun right at the beginning here. I'm looking at my camera right now, which is actually up above my computer a little bit because I'm using a fancy webcam. And now I'm gonna look down at my screen because this is one of the biggest questions I get about this, is do you guys feel like I'm really not looking at you when I look at myself here on the screen? Is it really different? You can kind of pay attention. So I might go back and forth because actually what I believe is that it doesn't matter too much. So I might look up here directly at the camera to you. I might look down and at the chat box. And as long as you know that I'm being authentic, it's all good, I think. So, okay. My name is Elissa Weinzimmer. We are here to do why we freak out. See, I'm already stumbling on my own words. Why we freak out on camera and how to solve it. And my intention for all of us, for you, for me, for all of us, for everybody who could maybe benefit from this in the long run, in this masterclass is that we understand that when our nervous system goes a little bit into fight or flight mode, which of course mine is right now a little bit, when our nervous system goes a little bit into fight or flight mode, it's normal. It's okay, it's totally reasonable, and there actually is a way to address it, okay? So I think this is really timely. And I know that it feels vulnerable when you're putting yourself out there and you have this feeling, this heartbeat thing going on, but it's worth it and important to put ourselves out there. So we need to address how we do this. Okay, so I'm sometimes gonna look over at my notes too. I wanted to read to you a couple of things that people sent to me about the questions around this issue. So a number of you have written to me to say that you're really excited for this class and you specifically want to learn these things. So I had a public speaker who wrote to me and they said that they hate that feeling that happens when their throat closes up and it feels like you can't, like I'm going to drink some water now, even just saying this. You get really thirsty and it's hard to swallow and it's just hard to talk. So you guys can even go yes, yes, yes in the chat box if you relate to these, okay? There was a singer who wrote to me and mentioned feeling numb in her extremities before performing, which I was like, yeah, that's totally a thing. there was an actor who's attending who said that they want to understand why they freeze up right in the moment that action gets called on set. You guys know what I'm talking about, you actors, us actors. And even there's a grad school student who wrote to me and said that, you know, everyone's on Zoom right now. I know you guys are probably spending so much time on Zoom right now. Thank you for being on Zoom again with me in this moment. And in that moment, right before she presses unmute, she's like, oh God, I don't want to. And then there's this rambling thing that happens when she does get a chance to share. So all of this is, again, like I said, super normal. I've taught thousands of students this stuff over basically a decade. And I've heard stories like this over and over and over. And I've experienced them myself. So we're gonna talk about how we address this. I'm just gonna peek at the chat box for a second. Okay, cool. Christian's manning the chat box. If you guys need anything, he will be there for you. And yeah, we're in a webinar format. That's why we're not in the Brady Bunch boxes right now, but we can talk about that more. Okay. So today we're gonna cover, these are the things we're gonna cover today. Number one, the neuroscience behind why we freak out on camera, or basically when anyone's looking at us, why that happens. We're gonna talk literally about some very concrete things that happen in our nervous system. We're going to talk about how we then retrain our nervous system so that we can reverse engineer our way back into presence. I say that for all the engineers out there. I saw that there are some of you. We're going to talk about how we can use our eyes as portals to really pay attention to being present with the world around us. And also when we talk about eyes, what you'll see is that you can actually look at another person's eyes and you can see whether they're being genuine, authentic, and present, or whether they're in some different state. And finally, we're going to do a breathing exercise that will help calm and ground you in the moment right before you press record and put yourself out there. So I'm going to give you the very concrete thing you can do right before you press record. So I've got an hour with you today, and actually we'll do an hour and then I'll leave some time after that for questions. But I just want you to know that I really trust that you're going to walk away in this hour with a lot of concrete beneficial things you can do right away. That's really my philosophy, is I want to explain to you how we can do things differently so we can see a result immediately. But that being said, there's of course a lot more where all of this is coming from. Maybe some of you saw my Instagram story the other day that I had flashcards out and I was moving around all these different flashcards, figuring out all the different exercises that I want to teach. So rest easy, because those flashcards are related to something called Authentic Voice Academy. And that is a 10-week class. And what we're doing today is an introduction to that class. So if you decide you'd like to join class and be with me at this time on Wednesdays for the coming 10 weeks, that's absolutely something you can do. I'm super excited to start class, and I will give you all the information about it towards the end of our conversation. So just hang tight, learn everything with me right now, and rest easy that I'll give you all the information about Authentic Voice Academy as we go on. Okay, so before we go into the content that we're going to cover, let me just tell you a little bit about who I am, because I'm sure I'm new to many of you. And I'm just looking again at the box to see, wow, we have almost 200 people here. This is amazing. So to all those who I've not met yet, welcome. I'm so glad to welcome you into my universe. To those of you who have been with me in Voice Body Connection land for a while, welcome back. I'm so grateful you're here. So here is a little bit about me. So like I said, my name is Elissa Weinzimmer. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I now live in New York City. And I run a business called Voice Body Connection. So what I do in my work is I work with people on voice and presence. And one of my specialties is that I help people actually untangle muscle tension that is causing tightening in the throat. And you'll hear this as part of my own story. And it's clamping down on our ability to make sound physically. And that's something that I've worked on for a very long time. But also, in addition to working on our voice on a physical level, I really address our voice on a mental, emotional, and spiritual level, right? Our voice exists on all these levels. We can say, what does it mean to have a voice? And we can be talking about our larynx and our vocal cords. We can be talking about our ability to impact people around us. We can be talking about feeling like we are authentic and in alignment with the truth that universal intelligence would have us live in. And that's something I talk about on my podcast, which is called Find Your Voice, Speak Your Truth. So anyhow, my expertise is on all these levels, and I'm a performer myself. I have a background singing, dancing, and acting. And growing up, I did a ton of musical theater. That was very much my thing. You can probably see it in my big smile. I remember I was thinking about, as I was preparing for all of this, I was thinking about the moments that used to happen in theater camp when I was growing up, where my director would be way back at the back of the auditorium, and he would be like, everyone, smile, volume. And I was really good at responding to that. So I remember feeling like I was smiling so big my face was gonna break, and just, you know, the literal ham it up thing. I actually have a picture I'll show you in a second of what Alyssa hamming it up looks like. But so essentially I grew up doing musical theater. And also, over the course of time, I have studied theater, I've studied singing pedagogy, I've studied, by the way, I'm in Brooklyn right now, and there will sometimes be the sound of sirens going by, so we'll pray for everyone, whatever that's related to. Okay. So I've studied theater, I've studied singing pedagogy, I've studied somatics, body mind centering specifically. I'm certified in yoga, I practice meditation, Vedic philosophy comes into a lot of my teaching. And of course, I've studied business and neuroscience and speech science. So all of that makes its way into my work. And my clients are performers, they're entrepreneurs, they're lawyers, they're all the things that you guys are in the chat box, healthcare workers. If we have a voice, if we're a human on this planet and we have a voice, then we probably on some level want to know how to use it, how it works, and be able to communicate with others. So, okay, let me peek at the chat box before I go a little bit further. Okay, great, we're all good. So that's all my professional pedigree. And like I was saying, back in the day, growing up doing a lot of musical theater, I got praised for being good at it. But what I really realized about my musical theater days is that a lot of what I was doing was pushing. There was a lot of energy of like I said, hamming it up. I'll show you that picture that I was mentioning. One sec, let me pull it up. If I know where it went is the question. Okay, perfect. So here's Alyssa playing Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, just so you can see, like, this is the mode, right? So that looks beautiful on stage, sure. But what I found is I was a senior at the University of Southern California, and I was in this mode all the time. I was performing in musicals. I was in an a cappella group, and I was pushing, pushing, pushing. And some of you know this part of my story. I'll click out of this to tell you about it. Some of you know this part of my story. I lost my voice. So I was pushing, pushing, pushing. I was on an a cappella retreat one weekend with my a cappella group. And we'd been rehearsing all weekend, singing my solo, What a Feeling from Flashdance. And then in the evenings, we'd been kind of partying, drinking, if you will. And after a pretty focused period of time with this, and I felt like I was going into the weekend with some laryngitis, I woke up on the Sunday morning and I felt like I had shards of glass in my throat, and it hurt to swallow, and I could barely make sound. So I knew something was very, very wrong. I was really freaked out. I went to the laryngologist, the throat doctor, and had my vocal cords scoped. And it turned out that it took me some time to get all of this language, but I'd had a vocal hemorrhage. That means my vocal cords bled. I'd had severe onset of acid reflux. And I'd had just kind of the accumulation of what we call muscle tension dysphonia, which is a fancy way of saying that the muscle tension was clamping down on my voice and making it hard, difficult, fatiguing to make sound. So all of this led me, obviously, to get really curious about how our voices work and to start doing my work coaching voice. But a part of the story that I don't tell very often is that right around that same time, I also took my very first acting for the camera class in my senior year at USC. And I remember I was taking that class and I was doing all my tricks, like all my smile really big, like you just saw, you know, ham it up, but it wasn't working on camera. I felt really stiff. I felt rigid. I felt wooden. It clearly wasn't the way to be on the camera. It was too much. I was pushing in that mode too. And so that process is sort of what started getting me really interested in how do we understand presence in the same way that I can understand how my voice works. How do I understand how my presence works? And so obviously that's what we're going to be focusing on right now. And spoiler alert, you guys probably know My voice is a lot better. I teach all of this stuff now. I have a lot more stamina, but it's just a lifelong journey to learn, isn't it? So let's dive in. Okay, so what I want to do, I'm going to go back to the slides. What I want to do is introduce you to something called polyvagal theory. Now, I'm going to trust that you guys are hungry and eager to learn something a little bit dorky, a little bit deep, actually rather deep, but I trust that this is actually, it blew my mind when I learned this stuff, and I think it's going to blow yours. So let me talk about it for a second, and then I'll go back into the screen share. So polyvagal theory is a theory that was created by someone named Stephen Porges in the mid-90s. So it's not very old. It's like 20-something years old. And it's a way of thinking about how our human nervous system works. Now, you've probably heard people talk about fight, flight, or freeze, saying like, oh gosh, yeah, when I freak out, I go into fight, flight, or freeze. And we kind of just clump it all together. And that's how we have often talked about the human nervous system. Well, what polyvagal theory does is it separates out those different aspects and helps us understand their relationship to each other and how there's actually a hierarchy so that we can understand what it's like to feel what I'll call in a fully regulated state, what it's like to feel when we start going into fight or flight, and then why do we go all the way down into freeze. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you so we can take a look at this. Let's see. Play. Okay, let's go into full screen mode. Okay, so in the autonomic involuntary nervous system, there are sympathetic and parasympathetic ways of activation, forms of activation. So sympathetic activation is nicknamed fight or flight. Parasympathetic includes two branches of what's called the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is a very big nerve in our body that starts at cranial nerve 10, so it's way up here in our brain, comes out of the brainstem, and it comes down around to a bunch of the organs that we think of as being related to breathing, being related to speaking, being related to connecting to other people. So it goes to our eyes, it goes to all of our sensory organs in our face, it goes to our larynx. There's actually a recurrent laryngeal nerve, it's called, that goes all the way down to our heart and then back up to our larynx, which I think that's fascinating, because what that actually means is that our heart and our voice are deeply connected, neurologically speaking, physiologically speaking. And then this vagus nerve goes all the way down below our diaphragm to all of our visceral organs as well, especially our intestines and our liver and our stomach and everything down there. So the ventral vagal part, and I'm going to get a little bit dorky for a second here. Let it wash over you if this is not your level of dorkiness. Pardon me one second. So I'm gonna give you all the terms for a second, and then we're gonna nickname them so they're easier. So the ventral vagal, if you guys are familiar with this term ventral, it means in the front. So it comes out of the brainstem on the front side. It's the newest part of this vagus nerve, and it goes to the upper stuff above the diaphragm. So the lungs, the heart, the throat, the face, right? And then the lower part and the back part, the dorsal vagal, it comes out of the back of the brainstem, goes down, and it's the oldest part of our nervous system. It goes down to all those visceral organs that are related to digestion and keeping us alive. So here's the thing, if you look at the bottom of the slide, there's an order or a ladder. Ventral vagal is at the highest part of the ladder. Sympathetic is at the middle part of the ladder, and dorsal vagal is at the lowest part of the ladder. Now, what does this mean? This means evolutionarily speaking, dorsal vagal, the lowest part, happened first. So if we think about it, way, way, way back, it's actually 500 million years ago is what people believe, when organisms didn't have the capacity to start fighting or fleeing, running away, or to start making friends. Tend and befriend is what it's sometimes called. All they could really do is when they were nervous or thought something terrible was happening, they could just freeze and collapse. So they could only go into that lowest mode. Then 400 million years ago, the sympathetic evolved, and that's when organisms started to be able to fight or flee in the face of something intense. And then about 200 million years ago is when the ventral vagal system started to occur, and that is when we're in a full state of regulation with the people around us and we're not worried that they're going to attack us or do something scary. I'm going to say a little bit more about this, and then I'll come back to why it connects to being on camera, public speaking, talking to other people. So here's a visual of the polyvagal ladder. You'll see, I just want to credit that Deb Dana is a researcher who has worked with Stephen Porges, who is the creator of the polyvagal theory, or is believed to be the founder. Deb Dana is actually a therapist. She's a psychotherapist. So Stephen Porges, scientist, neuroscientist, came up with this stuff, and she has put it in a lens that helps us really understand it in terms of how we relate to each other. So we're going to nickname ventral vagal up at the top of the ladder. I like to call it stay and play mode. Does that make sense? It's when we're really happy to be connected to each other. Sympathetic, halfway down the ladder, is fight or flight mode. And dorsal vagal, freeze and collapse, is at the bottom of the ladder. Now, why do we have a ladder? Why is that the model that Deb Dana came up with? Because just like you would walk up and down a ladder, you have to walk through these states. You have to walk hierarchically up and down this ladder in order to move between different nervous system states. Okay, one more visual and then we'll talk about the significance of this. So here's another one that I found that's adapted from Deb Dana's work. So up at the top, you're seeing ventral, which another nickname for it we could call safe and social, feeling secure and connected to the people around you. Sympathetic is when we're mobilized for fight or flight, we're feeling stressed or agitated. And dorsal vagal is when we shut down and feel disconnected or numb. Okay, let me actually pause for a second. So I'm gonna leave the screen share, and I'd love to hear from all of you. How is this landing for you? Are you looking at any of these parts of the ladder and being like, oh my gosh, that must be what's happening to me? Go ahead and put some stuff in the chat box. Let me know how this is landing for you so far. Really interesting, yeah? Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? I know, I feel the same way. And we're about to talk about why it matters and why it leads us to freak out on camera. Yeah, 100% connecting. Yay, I'm so happy to be sharing this with you guys. Yay, okay, awesome. Okay, so here's the next part to talk about in terms of significance. Go with me for a moment, if you will. Imagine that you are a zebra on the savannah, okay? Everyone, you're a zebra on the savannah, get into character. Okay, there are two groups of lions. One group of lions they're both pretty far away from you. One group of lions is sitting down, they're sunning themselves, they're paying attention to each other. This pride of lions is paying no mind to you. The other pride of lions is up on their haunches looking at you. Which group of lions do you pay attention to, zebra? Tell me in the chat box. Yeah, I see people saying I'm still climbing the ladder. We're gonna talk about that right now. Yeah, the ones looking at you. Of course, you pay attention to the lions that are looking at you. Why? This is very simple. This is simple primal neuroscience again, right? So the lions that are looking at you are the ones that are most likely to start bounding towards you and wanting to like take a bite out of the back of your neck, right? Now, we all know that it's because it's such a funny statistic that people think public speaking is scarier than death. Here's why I think that is. I think it's because death would just be death. Like the lion sneaks up from behind me, gets me on the back of my neck, that's it, it's over. But if it's public speaking, what it is the lions up on their haunches paying attention to you, and you have to live in the agitation and the nervous system state, if you will, of waiting for them to come get you, right? That's why it's scarier. It's literally like, it's two parts. It's both the pursuit of you as prey and then also the death anyway. So I think on a neurological level, and I'm going to use a fancy word again, neuroception is a word that we can use, not just perception, not just what I see with my eyes, but this happens even faster deep in those nerves that we just talked about. The neuroception of someone looking at us is, oh my God, I'm prey, I might get eaten. And this is why we freak out on camera. It makes sense, right? Okay, so let me go back to my notes because I want to remember what I wanted to tell you next. Okay, so essentially, whether you're on Zoom as a student and about to press unmute, or whether you're recording yourself for your YouTube channel, or whether Oprah invited you onto Super Soul sessions and you're about to give your big speech, having a lot of people look at you in any of these circumstances, even if it's perceived through a little dot that I'm staring at, that's my camera right now, it's a heavy neurological load. And now here's the other thing. is we're all going to have different ways that our nervous system reacts and gets activated. But when we go down into fight or flight mode, right, when we get triggered, agitated, and actually part of how it works is that there's this kind of braking mechanism that's keeping us in the stay and play mode, and it lifts up because we're like, oh, nope, it's over. I got to have all my resources. I need my adrenaline. I need my cortisol. I need all of it. As soon as we go into that mode, there's a cocktail of things that are bound to happen. Okay, so now here's what I want to tell you next. We can reverse engineer our way into full presence, right? So how are we going to do that? Okay, yeah, I know what I'm going to say. I'm looking at my notes like I don't know what I'm going to say. But so some of you have taken my class online that I created in collaboration with Kajabi, the online platform that I work with and love. That class is called 5 Days to Confidence on Camera. And if you've taken that class, you know that the 5 days cover 5 different things: your eye contact, your body language, your breathing, your voice, of course, and your connection to your audience. Okay, I'll say that one more time. Your eye contact, your body language, your breathing, your voice, and your connection to your audience. Now, we're not going to focus on all of this today because, like I said, I want to make sure that we go deep in the areas that are most important. But when we pay attention to those 5 things, we're going to see some very characteristic changes in the different nervous system states. So up at the very top in stay and play, what we're probably going to see with eyes, let's start with eyes. And actually, in fact, I got a slide for this. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. What we're going to see for eyes, one of you guys is probably more tech savvy than me and can tell me how to not have to go through like the unpretty part of this. But anyhow, thanks for bearing with me as we go back and forth. Okay, so with our eyes, in stay and play, our eyes are probably connected, softened, and focused, yeah? In fight or flight, our eyes are scanning for danger. That makes total sense. Where's the threat? Where's the threat? Where's the threat? Go ahead and do that for a second. You guys just look around your space and scan, like let your eyes bounce off of everything. Or another thing that our eyes can do is feel like they're gonna bore holes through, like we're really, really looking, right? There's literally muscles in our eyes that can push our eyes forward, and those muscles are pushing our eyes forward like we're trying to look around, right? And then in freeze and collapse mode, what's gonna happen? Our eyes are gonna be frozen, sunken, or vacant. Does this resonate? So, you know how people say that our eyes are the windows to our soul? I think the reason people say that is because our eyes are the windows to our nervous system. Our eyes are the windows to be able to read someone else's nervous system state and also assess our own nervous system state from inside. Yeah, so this is what I mean when I told you at the beginning that we were going to get clear about how you can look at someone else and you can look at their eyes and be like, nope, bullshit, that person's not, they're not here. They might be in fight or flight, they might be in freeze and collapse, but they're not here, right? You're gonna be able to tell that by their eyes. Are their eyes softened, focused? Can you tell that they're looking at you? Or are they looking through you? Are they darting around? Or are they kind of far away? And of course, this is gonna happen on a spectrum. Okay, alert. It's time for exercise number 1. Are you guys ready? Okay, so I call this the notice what's in the room exercise, and it's actually an adaptation of mindfulness meditation techniques that might feel familiar to a lot of us. But what we're gonna do is take it a step further and actually articulate things out loud, use our voice so that we can feel what's going on with our nervous system. So the way this exercise works is I'm going to give you a moment to look around the space that you're in and to continuously speak and name everything you see. So like, for instance, I might say, right now I'm seeing a water glass that has a smudge from my lipstick. I'm seeing the curtains next to my blinds, and I'm looking outside and I'm seeing that there are cars driving by here on my street in Brooklyn. What I'm going to do is breathe whenever I need to, but talk continuously about what I'm seeing. Now, here's the only rule with this exercise is I want to encourage you to stay as present as you can. So don't go into speculation. If you start going, here's the water glass that has the smudge from my lipstick, and oh my gosh, I wonder what shade of lipstick that is, and I wonder what factory it was made in. Maybe it was made in a factory in China, or maybe in Sweden. If you start going like that, that means, can you hear how I started going into the past, or I might be going into the future? Stay in the present, keep noticing what's around you. Why are we doing this exercise? Because when you take the time to speak out loud and notice what's around you, of course your eyes are going to come into focus. So you're really going to be looking, trying to figure out what you want to say, and then our eyes will come into that ventral vagal nervous system state. Okay, does this sound good? And I know you guys are starting to have questions already. I will absolutely answer them, but for now, I'm going to give you a minute to do the exercise. Okay, you got 60 seconds on the clock. Go ahead. Okay, I have to be honest, I didn't actually start a timer. That's probably a little bit less than 60 seconds, but let me hear how it's going. Go ahead and tell me in the chat box how you're feeling doing this exercise. So what I often hear is that people notice that suddenly they get stuck and they hold their breath, or they can feel their eyes go back in their head. Like, nope, that wasn't, you know, that thing of your eyes swimming back in your head. Or you might find that you're looking really hard, trying to be sure that you're seeing everything you're seeing. So can you see that it's really easy in this exercise to feel the activation of going into sympathetic mode and overdoing it, really pushing, or then collapsing all the way back and being like, never mind, I'm bad at this, I'm over it. And we can regulate our way back up to the full stay in play mode by just being gentle about what we're seeing, letting ourselves see what we're seeing. Yeah, okay. Could feel my body relaxing as I vocalized what I saw, trying to find the right word. Yes, I hear that one often with this exercise. I felt in it, not like it was bad or good, just fine. It felt awkward. Yep. It can be really awkward to do this exercise sometimes. It went very well describing the plant in the window, I see. Yeah. The cool thing too, my friends, about this exercise is that, so, you know, we say a picture is worth 1,000 words. That's because my nervous system can pick up so much information just from glancing at this glass of water for a half a second. But if I were to use the English language or any language at all to try to start describing it, because language is linear and has to kind of be processed and decoded and recoded through my left brain, I would have to say, well, this water is 3/4 of the way full, and this glass is 3/4 of the way full, and it's in a clear cup, and there's like a cute little dot thing in there, and it's kind of heavy. It would take me time to describe to you everything that I see in a split second about this water. So when we do this exercise, it also slows down our nervous system. Make sense? Yeah. Okay. So this exercise is something that I would absolutely highly recommend that you can do in that moment where you're starting to get activated, you're starting to get nervous before you're about to press record, whether you're doing the YouTube video or in class or doing the big TED Talk. But also, there's something else that I want to share with you too that I think is really, really helpful. So one of the most popular things I've ever heard out of what I teach is that people love this idea. They love the idea of naming your camera. Now, there's a lot behind this because, you know, obviously we could go deeply, and in the class that I teach for the next 10 weeks, we will go deeply into your customer avatar, so understanding who you're speaking to. But for instance, I have named my camera Melissa. She's, you know, very different than me, but has a similar name. And so right now, obviously I'm talking to you, I'm gonna look at, it's 213 of you, and however many hundreds are listening afterwards. I'm talking to lots of you right now, but my nervous system can really only handle talking to Melissa right now. I have to talk to the camera, right? When we give our camera a name, it's much easier for us to do what we just did in the notice what's in the room exercise with our camera, because, and I'll just demo again, we did this a little bit at the very beginning. If I were to really, really try to make sure that I'm talking to all of you. Can you see how that's like, oh, I'm nervous, my heart rate is going, I'm starting to sweat, and I'm really making sure that I'm doing a good job talking to all of you. That's me in sympathetic nervous system state, right? I'm pushing. And by the way, we didn't talk about this so much when we were talking about polyvagal theory, but you know that we go down the ladder into the dorsal vagal activation, or rather the non-activation. So what would happen is if my nervous system is getting so overloaded in this sympathetic state, like I'm really, really trying to be sure that I'm doing a good job and I'm recording a long video and I'm pushing my energy, at a certain point, that's when I start to go away, because my nervous system is like, whoa, that load is too heavy. I can't keep supporting all of this adrenaline, all of this cortisol. And this is, now you can maybe feel that this is me away, kind of phoning it in. And the interesting thing, and we know this from the ladder that you have to crawl back up this way, is if I want to get back into deep, honest connection with you, I need to actually walk through the sympathetic activation again, as uncomfortable as that is. I need to be like, right, okay, back, here I am, I'm back. And then I can fully re-regulate back into ventral vagal. Yeah. The significance of what I'm saying is when you turn your camera into a friend, into someone who's friendly, into your most supportive customer, someone who really wants to be there, someone who really wants to hear what you're saying. Maybe you guys are not entrepreneurs like me, so it's not a customer, it's just a student or a friend, right? But when we think of our camera, the evil, scary camera, as someone we really genuinely want to connect to, that's how we're able to recalibrate our eyes, recalibrate our whole nervous system, and come back into stay and play. And I think that this is actually maybe starting to answer some of the questions I've seen in the chat box about, like, Alyssa, how do you prepare for a session like this? Well, I mean, you guys heard me stumbling over my words as we were first starting. Like, I go into sympathetic nervous system activation too. It's totally normal. It's something that I'm compassionate and accept. And what I hope we're building right now, what I trust we're building right now, is tools that can bring us back into regulation. So those tools, to recap them, are: number one, you can do the notice what's in the room exercise if you have time. Or number two, apply what you learned in that exercise, name your camera. Hi, Melissa. And just take a moment to land with your camera. Let your eyes come into, like we talked about, focused, soft connection. Okay. There's going to be another step that we can add, because what I'm going to talk about next is breathing. How's everyone doing, by the way? Are we feeling good? Yeah, I see that there are questions coming in. Perfect. Okay, we're basically right on time. Fabulous. Yay, yay, yay. I love this, you guys. Can you tell? I'm so glad you're here. All right. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen one more time. Okay, so breathing. Now this is, I do want to say, everybody, that this is not like every single human being is this way. You can be different, totally possible. However, these are the neurological patterns that we tend to see in human beings in these states. With breathing, when we're in stay and play mode, our breathing is adaptable to the situation. It's free and it's easy. Now notice that I did not use the word calm. I sometimes think about, you know, I mean, I'm an actor. I've worked with actors for such a long time. I think about the fact that, like, there are lots of scenes in movies and plays where people are yelling and screaming, and it's very dramatic, and that's on purpose, right? That's interesting. We want to watch that. So you can be in stay and play mode and be angry and be shouting, and your breathing can adapt, and your voice can adapt, and your body can adapt to the situation. Calm does not necessarily equal present. I think that's really important. Let me say it one more time. Calm does not necessarily equal present. Present is adaptable to the situation, free and easy. Okay, when we start to dysregulate, and there's nothing really we can do about the dysregulation process, it's our nervous system having a response to what's happening. It's a stimulus and we get triggered. We can't really control this part. What we can control is working our way back up the ladder. But when we go into fight or flight, our breathing might start to get heavy. And the reason for that is because essentially, the way it breaks down is that fight or flight mode is when our skeletal muscles get activated because we're going to have to do a thing. So maybe we're going to have to go running across the savannah, right, as our zebra selves. So our blood needs to flow to those skeletal muscles. They need like a pretty deeply oxygenated blood flow in order to activate in the ways that they're about to activate. So that's why our breathing gets heavy. But then again, if the neurological load gets so intense that we go further down the ladder, what's our breathing going to do? It's going to hold, right? That's freezing and collapsing, is like, I'm just going to pretend I'm not here. And I am certain that every single one of us listening right now has found themselves in a public speaking situation holding their breath. And I think the subtext underneath that is like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I think I'm going to die. Ah, right? So in order to get back up the ladder, if our breath is held, we're going to have to let it kind of get crazy messy for a minute, and then it can become adaptable for the situation. Let's practice this. Okay, so what do I want to do first? Okay, here's the first point I want to make. We breathe in and out through our mouths while we're talking. I can prove it to you. The only sounds I can make without breathing in and out through my mouth and using my mouth while I'm talking to you are nasal sounds, where my soft palate is dropped and it's going out through my nasal passages. So we're breathing in and out through our mouth when we're talking. Very often, and again, this has to do with the present doesn't necessarily equal calm. Very often we think when we're in a public speaking situation that we need to re-regulate our breathing by slowly breathing in and out through the nose, like they taught us in yoga class. I have no problem with breathing out in and out through the nose. Ujjayi breathing, as it's called in yoga, is fabulous for that. When we are going to be speaking, we're going to be breathing in and out through our mouth. So let's regulate our nervous system through our mouth. Can you do me a favor right now? Everyone join me in letting your lips be gently apart and letting your breath come in and out through your mouth. And you don't even necessarily need to make it do anything, just let it kind of hang around. And this might feel really weird that I'm asking you to do this while you're listening to me, because you're not necessarily on the spot right now. But can you feel what it feels like to breathe in and out through your mouth? Okay. The second thing we need to know about our breathing for speaking is that when I'm breathing while I'm speaking, I am speaking on the exhalation, and my recovery time is during the inhalation, right? Hello, 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 I'm talking to you right now. Breath in. Hello, 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 I'm talking to you right now. Breath in, right? So if I were to go, hello, 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 I'm talking to you right now. Breath in, I'm so nervous. Hello, 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 I'm talking to you right now. Breath in, I'm so nervous. Hello, hello, I'm talking to you right now. You can hear how that type of breathing is it's going to send me down into sympathetic activation. So if we can learn how to breathe in easily, that's when we're going to really, really help ourselves stay in the stay and play mode in the ventral vagal activation. In the ventral vagal, let's call it regulation. So I want to teach you something that combines everything that we've done so far. I call this the moment before exercise, and it is the thing that I want to recommend that you do in the moment before you are about to go on stage. Okay, step number one. You ready for this? Step number one, breathe out through your mouth. You can make noise, you can sigh it out, you can do whatever you want. When we breathe out like that through our mouth, like let all of our breath out, we are setting ourselves up for an easy inhalation. When we do the work on the exhalation, just like we do when we're talking, then we're setting ourselves up for the easy inhalation, not the hyperventilating one, but the easy expansive one. In fact, let's actually do one intermediate step before we build our whole moment before practice. So just do this with me for a second. This time, breathe out and squeeze all the muscles of your body. Ready? Breathe out. And this time, as you breathe in, relax all the muscles of your body. Yeah, let's do that a couple more times. So breathe out and squeeze all the muscles of your body. And then let it go and relax all the muscles of your body. And you can make as much noise as you want while you're breathing out, because we make as much noise as we want while we're talking, but see if you can make the breath in as silent and easy and expansive as you can, almost like you were bending your knees on a trampoline and then you just spring up. Ready? Let's do it one more time. Squeeze and breathe out. And then release and let your breath come in. Ah. Did anyone get a really nice breath that time? Did it feel good? Tell me in the chat box if you got a nice breath. And if you didn't yet, try it again. Yeah, it feels amazing. I've watched my thousands of students do this exercise, and literally it is the most beautiful thing to watch a human being take a breath or allow a breath in. Let's call it allow a breath in. That feels expansive. And isn't that what I want to be doing in the moment before I walk out on stage, on Oprah's stage, right? I want to walk out with like, I'm ready to take in the world, not like, oh my God, right? Okay, so we're going to combine everything that we're feeling right now into this moment before exercise. So step number one of the moment before exercise is you're going to breathe out. Step number two is that you're going to let that easy breath in, but at the same time, you're going to paste a smile on your face, okay? And I don't care if this smile feels fake, that is completely and totally fine, but you're just going to paste a smile on your face, put yourself into the shape of I'm happy while you breathe in, okay? Let's practice that one more time. Squeeze and breathe out. And then paste the smile on your face as you breathe in easily and let go. And then you're going to begin. That, my friends, is the moment before exercise. We breathe out, we let all the heebie-jeebies out, we paste a smile on our face, we breathe in, and then we press the record button. I guarantee you, if you do this, you will look free, easy. You will be in a nervous system state that is free and easy as you start. I'll go over it one more time. Let's do it one more time. Ready? Breathe out, all the heebie-jeebies. Any tension you want in your body, you can let it in, but then let the tension go as you paste the smile on your face and breathe in. Yeah. how could one count how many times I've been on set and we've done cut and start again. I do this every single time. This is my thing. This is how it works. Yeah, and would it work for a scene where you have to be sad or angry? Yeah, what I would do in that case, Kriti, is paste the shape of the other emotion that you want on your face, and go into it that way. Yeah, but it would work. Yes, breathing in and out with mouth, not nose. Yes, Julie, I'll let you listen back because I talked about it's important for us to be breathing in and out through our mouth in order to prepare ourselves for speaking. Okay. Here's what I want to get to in the remaining 10 minutes before we go into the questions and answer time. And you guys, I can tell you have wonderful questions. Christian's keeping a catalog of them all. So two things I want to talk about. So like I promised, I'll talk to you about what my class entails, what this 10-week class called Authentic Voice Academy entails. Before we go into that, I want to just get on my soapbox for a second. Over the last couple of weeks, as I was planning to roll out this class, which it's been on my calendar for a long time, I knew I was going to be offering this masterclass. I've been teaching this material for a long time about us putting ourselves on camera, feeling confident on camera. It's really near and dear to my heart. And it's so relevant right now. It is so very relevant. We're spending all of our days on Zoom or Google Meets or whatever, virtually connecting to people. And I know that there are a lot of us out there who are not comfortable with this medium and feeling, and basically what I imagine is happening for you is that you're spending a bunch of your day in fight or flight mode when you don't want to, right? And that's deeply uncomfortable. I wouldn't blame you at all for not wanting to do that. So getting comfortable in this way in order to just make your day-to-day experience right now better, and in order to market your amazing soaps and lotions that you're selling on Etsy, or in order to share your message that in the coaching work that you do with the world, or in order to do your singing or your acting or your voiceover or teaching your students, like all of this is so important and relevant right now. But I do want to take a second to scale up because this has really been in my mind and on my heart lately. 2020 is no joke, right? The moment that humanity is going through is extremely intense. And I talk about this on my podcast sometimes. I have these moments where I get up on my soapbox, and this message is feeling more and more important every day. I'm waking up every morning with the conviction that this work is sacred and we need to be doing it. When you work on regulating your nervous system so that you can show up and market your product or be with your students or whatever it is online, like, that's great. I'm so glad you're going to experience more comfort in your life. And also, when you have a desire to share something with the world, it is something that's coming through you from universal intelligence. There's like this, it's almost like our human bodies are like compasses pointing towards, like, Alyssa is meant to go in that direction, and Christian is meant to go in that direction, and Melissa is meant to go in that direction, right? And when we pursue what universal intelligence would have us be doing, the whole world directly around us and everywhere gets better. And the way that we can do that, the biggest way we can enact our mission on the planet is with our voice. It came to me a little while ago when I posted it on Instagram recently. I had the thought, I was like, oh, our voice is our longest limb, right? Our voice is, I mean, my hands can reach this far, my feet can reach this far, and especially with the advent of the technology we're living with right now, my voice, my presence, my energy can reach all the way across the planet and who knows how far beyond. So learning how to use this medium and aligning ourselves with our true state of presence, our full state of presence, so that we can share what we want to share in an authentic, grounded, truthful way. Our voice is vibration. It's going to vibrate. People are going to resonate with what you're saying. I imagine that the reason you're here right now in this moment with me is because you resonated on some level with the ad that you saw, or the email that I sent you, or just showing up to this class because your friend forwarded it to you. Yeah. It is so important in this moment where politics and governments and corporations and everything would have us polarize and have us repeating things and saying scripts the way we've been taught them and the way we're supposed to say them. It is so important that we tune into what we want to say and start sharing it. And if the thing that's blocking you from doing that is this scary thing called the camera or your computer, then I want to support you in using it as your ally and not letting it stop you. Yeah. There is actually a bunch of ancient wisdom that says the era we're living in is all about sharing our voice. And there are a lot of voices out there right now that are loud, and they're saying things that are problematic and challenging and difficult. We would live in a very, very different paradigm if all of us sitting on the line right now started expressing ourselves in the way we feel called to do. Do you receive your pep talk? Tell me how that feels. This is so important. Yeah. So, you know, a lot of times the way we refer to this is we say, like, oh, it's so scary to put myself out there. Well, I hope you understand the reason that it's so important that you put yourself out there. And I can't do it for you. And I'm not going to do the work that you're going to do. The blueprint I'm living in is Elissa Weinzimmer. I'm not in yours. So you got to do what the planet set you here to do. And if you're here in 2020, then I think we're all here for a reason. Okay. Whew. All right. I'm going to stay up on my soapbox while I tell you the next part. Okay. So yeah, it's time. I see in the chat box, it's time. It's time. I agree. Okay, so if you want to join me in Authentic Voice Academy, let me talk to you about what this is. So I'm going to send you this link very soon. If you look up at the top, you can see it's voicebodyconnection.com/Authentic Voice Academy. So these may be some of the scenarios that you're finding yourself in. You're overwhelmed to be the face of your business. You want to start a YouTube channel. You want to create an online course. You guys know how much I love online courses. You freeze when it's your turn to speak in a meeting, or you simply struggle to get a word in edgewise with your team. So instead of being like the little girl and putting your face inside your hands, and I do that sometimes too, we're going to find your voice and speak your truth. Yeah. So here's Authentic Voice Academy. We're going to become our most confident, authentic, free selves so we can radiate on camera and everywhere in your life. Okay, I told you guys a little bit about this story. That's me. You've seen this picture. Here's some fun things that other clients who have taken previous versions of this class. This is kind of a newly minted class right now, but I've taught versions of it many times. So you can read about Esther. So Esther is so cool. Esther is the founder of Jumpstart Your School. She teaches people all around the world to create language schools. And Esther was rolling out her online courses and was like so afraid to put herself on camera. And Esther turned into an absolute rock star with this open cart video that she was doing. She like rehearsed it. We talk a lot in Authentic Voice Academy about how to memorize something without turning into a robot. She was able to take notes in a way that she didn't turn into a robot. And it was so cool. She kept sharing all her videos with me and they got so powerful. Another client, Steve, is a contractor in Idaho who teaches people how to have profitable contracting businesses. You guys can probably imagine that if you go into a house to like, you know, help someone with all of the things in the house, that it's just like, we have a certain relationship with contractors. We think things are a certain way, and Steve is trying to change that by helping contractors have really clear, profitable businesses. And Steve has made leaps and bounds in his ability to connect on camera, to draw in his clients. It's absolutely amazing. And then also we have a statement from Joelle here, who's a pastor in Colorado. And it was so awesome, especially, I mean, now in COVID times, this was before COVID, Joelle was putting a lot of her teachings online and it was really nerve-wracking. And over the course of the time that we were working, Joelle's videos became so free, so connected, so beautiful. Okay, so how does Authentic Voice Academy work? I like to think of this as the public speaking class where you actually learn how to change your habits and your confidence. Here's the thing, most public speaking classes, like Bless Toastmasters, for instance, I think it's amazing, but when you go to Toastmasters, you hear a list of like, here's the things I should do, and then you stand up and you practice. And that is one way to get better, slowly but surely. But if we actually understand on a mental, cognitive, emotional, spiritual level what to change, then we can change things so much faster and so differently. So that's what we're going to do in Authentic Voice Academy. Just to give you some logistics, the class schedule is that we start next Wednesday, September 30th, and we meet on Zoom in the actual regular Zoom rooms, Brady Bunch style, on Wednesdays for 90 minutes from 12 to 1:30 p.m. Eastern time, so at the time we started. And if you can't attend class live, don't worry, you can still enroll. That's totally fine. I always have students all over the planet, many of whom are asleep during the actual time of class. So if you're part of the cohort that's just engaging on Facebook and watching the recordings and asking me questions in the portal, that's absolutely fine. You're welcome to join. Another thing that you're going to get as part of a member of this class is 3 months of access to my Voice Body Connection community, which is where we do warm-ups together. We have concerts. You get to listen to live recordings of my podcast. It's really fun. And also, this is something I do with all of my live classes, both with Authentic Voice Academy and Release Your Voice. Once you've taken this class, you can repeat it for free in future years. It's like the gift that keeps giving. Pay for it once, and you get to repeat it over and over. So if you want to come back next year and keep recalibrating your nervous system, you can. It's amazing. Our class access is in a portal on Kajabi and on Zoom. And we also do have a Facebook group where you can submit your videos and ask me questions. And yes, there will be, people ask me about homework, but I like to call it home play because I think that sounds more fun, and I'm never going to give you busy work. Okay, so I'll let you go through the curriculum more deeply on this page if you're feeling into the idea of whether this class can be for you, but here's the basic idea. We're going to address the habits that are keeping you stuck. I'm going to give you a framework using that idea of eyes, body, breath, voice, and connecting to your audience. You're going to have a framework and a checklist to observe your own personal habits and get really clear about what your habits are and where you're spending your time. Are you in sympathetic activation? Are you in full shutdown? How do we bring you back up the ladder? We're going to talk much more deeply about polyvagal theory. Today was just an intro, and other frameworks that help us understand how to change our state so that we can be in a state where we're authentic and connecting. And then we're really going to work on shifting the paradigm so that you understand how to be present whenever you want to. We're then going to go into the nitty-gritty of freeing your body language, having dynamic vocal inflections, clarifying your message, and finally, we're going to work on a project so you can practice memorizing without turning into a robot, and then we can perform for each other. So it's really, really special. It's really powerful. I love the format of this class because it's just such a beautiful way to train our nervous system over the course of weeks. And I see people transform. It's absolutely astonishing, the transformation that happens. Now, the cost of the course is full payment is $799 or 3 payments of $299. But for those of you watching it right now, until this Friday, which is September 25th, it's 1 payment of $699 or 3 monthly payments of $259. So if you hop in right now, and you can just go to voicebodyconnection.com/authentic voice academy, you're going to get the early bird price until the end of the day, Eastern time on Friday. And also another benefit is for an additional $199, if you want to have one-on-one time with me, I'm going to have office hours where you can get private coaching and feedback. Okay, so you'll have that option as well. There is a handful of FAQs here on the page to help you understand whether class is for you, how it's different than other classes. And I'll speak a little bit to this idea of like, what's it going to get me? Because of course that's so important. So I have seen my students, I'll click off of this to talk to you guys. I have seen my students increase their followership to over 10K, which I don't know if you know that on Instagram that unlocks the swipe up. It's a huge, big deal. It's amazing. I have seen people make thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in a month after doing this class. And overall, I've just seen people radiate authentically and powerfully and step into their brand and their presence in a way that is so amazing. The transformation is incredible, and I absolutely, absolutely wish it for you. So Authentic Voice Academy starts next Wednesday, the 30th. You've got 1 week to hop in. You can go to www.voicebodyconnection/authentic voice academy right now if you're ready to sign up, and I will see you in class. So I'm so excited to teach this class. And I want to say one more thing about it too, just to go back to the soapbox moment, which is, this class is, yes, absolutely about getting you comfortable in front of the camera, recalibrating your nervous system, but this is just the side effect warning part. You are going to get more present in your relationships with your people who are close to you. You are going to have better conversations with your loved ones. You are going to feel more joy and freedom throughout your days when you're more present. Going to happen. So you can work on this for your business. You can absolutely write it off as a business expense, but I just want to let you know that your whole life is going to get better. Okay. Yeah. Amazing. I know we're a couple minutes over time. So this is the time where I do need to let you go if you need to hop off, but thank you so, so much for being here. And I will stay on the line for questions. So anyone who wants to ask a question, Christian has been curating them in the chat box. He's going to let me know what we what I can answer, what some of the themes of the questions are. And I'm so, so very excited to have shared this time with you. Thank you for being here. I hope to see you in Authentic Voice Academy very soon. Yay. All right. Yay. I can't wait to have you, Leslie. I'm so excited to see you in class. Amazing. Yay. I'll see you guys in class. Okay. So, and for those of you who want to continue class right now, let's do it. Christian, what are you seeing in the chat box? What should I answer?
Hello, hello, hello.
You guys can pop your question in the Q&A thing if you see it down at the bottom of the webinar window. If you have a question, go ahead and pop it in now if you haven't asked your question yet.
Yeah.
You're here.
So Alyssa, can you hear me?
You're in charge of telling me what I'm answering.
Great. Can you hear me all okay?
I don't think oh, you know what? I think I have a thing where I think my speaker is not, I think I remember seeing that it wasn't. Okay, go ahead and talk to me again.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you. Go
Excellent.
ahead.
Great. Yeah, I've got lots. So let's see. So first off, multiple people have been asking whether or not this recording or even possibly your notes will be shared beyond this moment.
Yeah, okay, so here's how that's gonna work. I'm gonna, and some of you will be watching this later and you'll be like, yes, I know, Alyssa. But I'm gonna send you the recording of this, and everything that I shared on the screen, you can absolutely refer to. I'm not gonna send you the PDF separately, but it's there, you can look at it. Also, something fun that we're doing is turning this into the podcast for tomorrow. So if you wanna listen to it auditorily, if you wanna listen back again, you absolutely can.
Excellent. Someone had a really, really fascinating question: how to deal with your constant reflection.
What do you mean? Oh my God, of course. Okay. So if I'm on my phone like this and I'm in selfie mode and I can see myself, yeah. So I addressed that a little bit at the beginning when I told you guys, I asked you, like, if I look up at the camera or if I look down at myself, do you have a strong opinion one way or the other? I personally don't. I'm fine with people making eye contact with the eyes that they see on the screen in front of them. I find that the more that we calibrate our nervous system, the more I'm able to look at my own eyes and feel like I'm talking to the Melissa who is my avatar, who's different from me. So the way I deal with it is I become friends with the myself on the screen and I talk to myself. But if it makes you more comfortable to look directly at like the little dot where the actual camera is, like for instance, I might be looking, like here on my screen if I'm looking at myself versus up here, then you can absolutely do that if it feels more comfortable for you. Both are options, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And I will also say the hide self feature on Zoom can come in handy as well.
And you can hide yourself on Zoom. That's another option, my friends. Look for the button.
One person asked about when giving a presentation and you notice somebody in your audience being disengaged, how to remove the distraction.
Okay, great question. Okay, and this is something that we're going to get into in class much more deeply. So full presence begets full presence. So when you're being fully present, I want you all to imagine for a second, like just picture that you have a big group of people in front of you. And I want you to imagine that you're all encapsulated in a beautiful bubble, right? When everyone is in your bubble and you're being fully authentically present, you're fully up in that stay and play mode, people are going to join you in that stay and play mode just organically, authentically. That's what their nervous systems are going to want to do. If there is someone who's disengaged, what I would do is energetically leave them out of your bubble. If they're refusing to be part of yours, then just don't force them, right? Just leave them out of the bubble. Don't it's almost one of those like, sometimes I say like hashtag none of my business. I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know if they're on their phone. I don't know if they just got a call that their daughter is sick. Like, I don't know what's happening. So I'm just going to leave them out of my energetic bubble or invite them back in energetically. But certainly the thing I'm going to avoid doing is if my left brain starts going on that train of thoughts of like, oh my God, maybe they hate me. Everything's wrong. I'm so terrible, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to pick up my attention back to welcoming everyone into my bubble. That's my answer for that one.
Yeah, excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to combine these two together.
Yep.
Any tips or tricks on diaphragmatic breathing or relieving feelings of constantly needing to clear the throat or feelings of phlegm in the throat?
Yeah, so I'm not like feeling the most vocally athletic today, to be totally honest. You guys might have noticed I like cleared my throat at one point. So I generally recommend that we don't clear our throats, and I generally recommend, sorry, what was the first part of the question, Christian?
Tips on breathing diaphragmatically.
Oh, yes, of course. Okay, so, okay. We'll talk about this more in class. Breathing with your diaphragm. Diaphragmatic breathing is not a phrase I love. The reason I don't love this phrase is because it's kind of like saying, I'm going to go foot walking right now. It's like, cool. What else were you planning to walk with? Now, if you don't have feet anymore, I get that you might like substitute something else. If you don't have a diaphragm anymore, I get that you might substitute something else, but most of us have a diaphragm, so breathing is diaphragmatic. So the breathing practice we actually just went through, which there's a much more extended version that we'll do in class, is the type of breathing I would recommend. The question of what you're really doing is you're asking yourself to get out of the way of the movement of your diaphragm. We've got a motorcycle going by. You're asking yourself to get out of the way of the movement of your diaphragm and free everything around it so your diaphragm can run free like the cheetah that it is in the field. Like it just wants to be free, right? So a lot of times we think we need to control something when in fact it's actually setting up the parameters to have a situation where we feel safe so we don't have to control. And that's what I would say about diaphragmatic breathing. I feel like that question had two very different parts. Did I answer them both, Christian?
Yeah, that might have been on me because they were two separate questions.
Okay, thank you for trying to roll them together. All good. I'm going to keep taking questions for like another, let's say 7 minutes since we went over a little bit. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
This one is really, really interesting. Any particular tips and tricks for being present while wearing a mask in these socially distanced times?
I've been thinking about this so much. Yeah. Is there more?
Yeah. Yeah, they say they find it as problematic both as it has a physical obstacle and the tendencies to push to overcome it, and then also inviting in a lot of jaw tension from there as well.
Yeah, I hear you. Like, long story short, I hear you. It is literally a physical barrier. And I've been thinking a lot about what wearing a mask is doing to all of our throat chakras, like how it's, it's interesting. I was talking to the resident astrologer on my podcast, Virginia Rosenberg. You guys can go back and listen to a very recent episode that we just released last week about the fall equinox. Happy fall, everybody. It was the equinox yesterday. Virginia and I were talking about how a lot of the quality of energy of what's going on around voice and the planet is like censorship, right? And to some degree, like I think part of the reason we have a resistance to masks is because it feels like we can't breathe and it feels like we can't speak. And to some degree, that's true. And that frustrates me too. Like, to some degree, I'm sort of stuck in the frustration of like, oh, this really sucks. And we're doing it for everyone's health and safety, and it is really extremely important. So here's the way I would recommend we deal with any obstacle, any barrier. It's similar to the description that I gave of leaving that person out of your bubble. Is just like, make your conscious awareness, the space that you feel that you're being given, make it bigger, at least mentally for yourself, than it feels. When, we're constricted right here, it can feel like we can't get past it. If you start thinking past that and make yourself a bigger bubble, it's much easier to transcend the obstacle and to still connect. Does that make sense? There's a lot, I think there's a lot more I could say about that, but I think I'm in the question of all of it too right now.
Yeah, wonderful. There is a question about polyvagal theory, and I know some folks may have also wanted to see the ladder again, if that's possible, that slide. The question is, if you're in dorsal, do you need to move through sympathetic first in order to get to ventral? If so, are there different tools to get to sympathetic than to get to ventral?
Yeah, I'll show you guys the ladder one more time. So here's what that looks like. Stay and play is up at the top. Sympathetic is in the middle, fight or flight, and dorsal vagal, the freeze and collapse, is at the bottom. Yes. And I didn't say that right away. And I think this person was probably very perceptive and realized like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go through the messiness of sympathetic activation to get back up to regulation. And what are the tools? Yeah. So I think the biggest tool I want to bring us back to, because it always feels like the linchpin for me in terms of how to deal with the nervous system, is the eyes. So if you notice yourself in freeze and collapse, what you can start to notice for yourself is like, oh, I'm not seeing what's around me. How would I start to notice and see what's around me? Just try to start noticing, do that notice what's in the room exercise that we did. And the likelihood is you will overcorrect. In other words, you will go through sympathetic before you come back to stay and play. You don't necessarily need to work on going to sympathetic in a lot of cases. If we're talking about, I think part of the reason I love polyvagal theory is because it's trauma informed. It helps us understand on like a deeper level than I'm currently talking about with our voices, how we might, we might react in the face of trauma to some degree, like people looking at you as a minor like impact trauma on the human nervous system. So if there's like a bigger trauma, let's say that someone's really, really collapsed, really frozen, a therapist, for instance, might give them the assignment of taking like one of those soft baths and like pounding on something and screaming and getting angry, because they're trying to activate them up into sympathetic in order to move all the way up into full regulation again. And they know that that pathway has to be followed. So that's a great example of like when something would be catastrophic enough, intense enough, that you would need to actually just focus on getting to sympathetic first before you get all the way back to regulation. Does that make sense?
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, I think we'll take one or two more questions, Christian.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a couple questions concerning the academy itself and
Okay, sure.
pricing.
Yeah.
Some folks are wondering whether or not you ever work with a sliding scale.
I don't do a sliding scale, but what I would love is if anyone is like feeling in the like depths and guts of your soul that you really want to be in class and it's just not financially feasible for you at this time, because I absolutely understand the economic financial situation that's going on the planet right now, just write to me and explain to me your situation and let me see if we can figure something out. If you want to be in class, I want to know about it.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just scan through here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
this one is pretty interesting. Maybe it'll be the one to end on.
Okay.
Because it also talks about comes back to the idea of using our eyes.
Okay.
So this person says, I really struggle to look people in the eye as I speak. Apparently, it has something to do with how I receive information and how I apply my attention, but it doesn't work for camera. How do I present her and truthfully without blocking my attention by forcing my eyes not to wander?
Yeah. So I think, yeah, I think you cut out a little bit, Christian, as you were reading the question, but
Oh, sorry.
it's okay. I think what I'm hearing is like, how do I do all of this? Everything that you just described, Alyssa. So how do I do it? And and in the interest of not oversimplifying something that can't be oversimplified and to some degree can't even be explained through the English language, although you better bet I will try, but it's got to be embodied, it's got to be felt. What I would say is join me in class and we will explore this. How we recognize our different nervous system states and how we move our way back into regulation is a huge deal. I hope it's something that across the board, all of us will start to pay much deeper attention to and become more educated on. So I will leave that there. I will say thank you so, so much to everyone who joined me today. And those of you who stuck on the line, thank you so much for listening. I hope to see you in Authentic Voice Academy. I can't wait to support you in getting your message out into the world in a way that feels aligned and easy and free to you. Christian, thank you for your support and for reading the questions from everyone. I know I haven't been paying tons of attention to the chat box, but go ahead and type to me again. Tell me who you are. Yes, I can put the website in the chat box, and then you'll also get an email very shortly with the recording of this that will give you this link as well. But you can sign up for class at voicebodyconnection.com/authentic voice academy. And I see you all there. I see you, Myers. I see you, Daniela. I see you, Georgia. I see you, Samita, Julie, Tim, Michael, Anita, Lori. Thank you so, so much for being here. Thank you, everyone. I would love, love, love to keep sharing with you. Please spread the word. Tell people what you learned. Practice it. Do your notice what's in the room exercise. Do your moment before. And I will see you soon. Okay. Take care, everyone. Bye.